that deer is one of the biggest mainframe 8-points I've probably ever seen. Impressive from the mass, the beams, just the skull on him.
He got a donkey head on him, but I think they do. That's the species maybe in that area that Connor told me that I went up to his house and I said, hey, your taxidermist is using the wrong form, let me tell you. The heads are too big. You're trying to put this big head on them. It's not in proportion. Let me tell you, I shot a lot of deer.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I use the best taxidermy in New England. So, well, he don't know shit. No, I didn't say that. I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, hey, they get these big donkey heads after they get 5 years old.
I was like, well, if I throw a mic on, then I can help others the way that these people have all helped me.
Born in the heart of the Pennsylvania deer camp. With the help of experts, friends, and local legends, we bring you valuable knowledge and powerful stories for your hunting adventures. Welcome to the East Meets West Hunt Podcast with your host, Beau Martonik.
All right, we are good to go. Johnny Stewart, it's good to get you back on the podcast, brother.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You know, I was thinking about on the way here, I was like, wow, it's been a while since obviously we see each other like weekly, but as far as doing a podcast, and then I was thinking, then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, it was only 6 months ago. I was like, well, lots happened in 6 months.
Oh, yeah. And you did a lot of podcasts through the summer, stacked them up. I noticed to release them.
Yeah.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, and it allowed me to hunt more this
Harvest
fall.
a couple more animals.
Yeah. It was a good year all around, man. It was an excellent season, and I mean, you're still going at the time of recording this. It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And you're still ripping.
Yeah, I still got maybe one or two more states left. I'm going to head out maybe tomorrow to get on it. I'm still in the tunnel, vision, in the zone. Something might happen and break me out of it, but nothing interfered with that yet. So I'm still wanting another deer.
Yeah. And is it just that you just love it so much as far as that drive for it? Because it's like, obviously, I mean, you shot what, $4 or $5?
$5, yeah. 5 states, $5.
Yeah, which is incredible. And like, I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it. Like, what makes you keep going as far as like wanting to keep hunting? Just the love for it, or what is it?
I think it's the learning curve. I'm still learning. I feel like in life you have to keep learning. Your brain is a muscle. And a lot of things in life we do are routine. Sometimes our work, just daily, clean the house, wash your clothes, or whatever, writing bills, that there's no learning curve involved to keep growing in life. And I think just being out there, following these animals, hunting them, it fills my brains with questions and trying to figure out the answers in problem solving and learning. I just feel like my brain's being used, where in other parts of my life it's not, and it just feels good. And you get exercise, so mentally and physically, I think it's healthy. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to stop growing in either aspect, whether it's mentally or physically. Then you get stale and you might die, So
yeah, I
think that's the biggest thing, is being passionate and
learning
more.
And I think like it is amazing too, from the standpoint of, and I understand not everyone's in a situation of hunting as much as you do or I do, but after a season, you've been going hard since September, pretty much, to through now. I mean, barely skipping any days of hunting. That can wear down on you quite a bit. But just the last hunt that you were just on before coming up here today was a very challenging mountain hunt. Some of the most challenging terrain that you've been in all year, and you're still ripping.
Yeah, I should have had one, and I think I'm so obsessed in learning about this animal, this critter, this whitetail, and I don't consider myself to be a great hunter. I'm just obsessed with these animals and learning about them, following them, pursuing them. Maybe I think learning about them, figuring them out to where I got that down pretty good. And there's other things that I need to be better on. Like, last week I didn't check my powder in my muzzle loader, and it got wet in here. I got a shooter there, and might be like a rookie mistake to most people, which I think for me, I'm so obsessed with every day I go in the woods, I ask myself questions and try to figure out the answer and where to go next and study in the Spartan Forge, that it wears me out, and I don't have time for much other things. I'm not that conscientious with like my hunting equipment and my bow, and I need to be better in that realm, but it's just me, so yeah.
Yeah, and I think I just got done. I was doing a podcast by myself, like reflecting on the year of like what I did good, what I did poorly, and and how to interact. And I think it's good, like what you're saying, of like recognizing, because I'm in the same boat on things of like weapon mastery is something I need to improve on. Shooting the gun offhand, doing different things that I need to get better at. But if I've been able, thankfully, to be able to create opportunities, but am I 100% on capitalizing on them? No.
Yeah.
So like there's always things to improve on, and I don't think anybody will ever master all of those things, but it's fun to work at it and try.
Yeah, and I know there's like, and I put myself around good people like you, or even guys that are younger, ambitious, and got the drive, and their eyesight's better, their ears are better, they're physically better. So that helps me, being around people like that, to keep going. But yeah, I'm good in this avenue, and I need to get better in the efficiency with my equipment and stuff. Not that I'm bad, but there's always room to improve.
Yeah.
But I don't consider myself. I know a lot of guys that are good hunters, and I just know a lot about the animal. I think that's how I'm successful. But I look at it as like when I go out there, it's a test. When I'm going out there to hunting, to see what I've learned from this animal, how well do I know him? And the test is here. You go out in the woods and you harvest a mature animal. So to me, I'm pretty good in my grading as far as being scored on a test, how well you did studying your subject. And the test is here. It's the hunt. You did pretty good, John. Like that's how I look at it, and that's why I keep hunting, is to keep testing myself on how I've learned from my subject. Like I think about people that do learn about deer or whatever their subject is. Like mine is the mature whitetail deer. I think learning from that, and I've said it before, learning from the animal itself is your best. You'll get your best knowledge and understanding, other than listening to podcasts and reading books and learning from other people, because there's different situations and different habitat and regions where they survive, and people see things differently. I'm not saying that you can't take that info from other people and help your learning curve, but I think actually studying your subject and learning from it is better than, and I think that's what I've done over the years, was learn from the whitetail itself. Like you take someone like, maybe like a genius, like maybe like Einstein or like Tesla or whoever these guys studied. He didn't listen to someone about electricity. Like he focused on his subject, and he asked it questions and came up with conclusions or hypotheses on learning from that subject, and drawing conclusions and figuring out problem solving. And that's where he was able to understand that subject the most, not from someone else giving in their opinion. But opinions are great. You kind of let them come into your brain with other people's opinion, whether it's yours or who I hunt with, or like I said in the past, it don't have to be someone that has all the experience. He just sees it from his opinion. And that's here kind of rattling around in your head. And as you're studying your subject, maybe you could, throw this into the mix and be like, oh, okay, yeah. But I always ask the person I'm with, whether it's Cameron or whatever, what's your opinion? What do you think's going on? And actually recently on our hunt in West Virginia, I was with Cal and we tracked a deer, and long story short, we left off on him at dark. The next day we went in, found his tracks, and he went out, fed on some laurel and fed some moss off a tree. He turned around and he came back. He did like a loop after we jumped him, and he came back, and I said, he's starving. He's going to them acorns. He's going back. And we kind of followed him to a thick point, and we backed out. I didn't want to bump him out of there. And we just kind of probed around that section of timber where he was. We did like a complete circle around him the next day to see if he came out of there. And it was pretty fascinating. I did find him on the low side of the point where he had, in the middle of the night, come off of that thick point, went down to a creek. And I said, Cal, here he come off of that point. And he went up the hill like a beeline to a dead cherry limb, like about this diameter. Mm-hmm. And he ate all the mushrooms off that. Then he went down and back up on that point. And I said, he's up on that point. And we sat, it was thick there. We sat off a little bit, hoping we'd see him, come out, but it was windy and he never showed. But man, there's so many clues out there. And then even when we got done hunting, we're going out of the woods with my headlamp on, and Kyle's just following me. And even you're going out of the woods at dark, there's still a ton of clues. It's not like beeline. I'm looking like this, looking for acorns or fed on, maybe catching another track, leaf turned up, anything, any little clue. And on the way out, I found some acorns. So the whole time out of the woods, my brain is like being flooded with a ton of questions and me trying to figure out the answer. So, yeah, we encapsulated this deer where he's at, and, what is he doing there? Is he going to stay there? Is he going to leave? Did we bump him too bad? Is he going to go down again to eat mushrooms? Is he going to come out before dark? Is it too windy? Is he going to be nocturnal? Like, all this stuff is flooding my brain, and I try to draw a conclusion just from my experience in my 30 years. And like even asked Kyle, I said, what do you think? He said, and then the next day the snow melted and we went in there and sat, and maybe he was on that point. We never saw him. He said, I think there's a lot of area. He could be anywhere. I said, why? Like I'm just not, like I want your opinion. And he was like, he got some little nook that he goes to, which is true. And I think maybe he moved out of here. I said, well, I think from what I saw yesterday, he's pretty exhausted. He wants to eat. That point's thick. He had we saw a lot of sign there. I said, I think he's lives there. That's his safe zone. That's where he's at. I said, I don't think he left. I think he's right there. And I think it's just years of me following these animals and drawing conclusions and figuring them out and it might take maybe a full range day on the app, and I was looking for one and there is none coming up for him to come out of that thick area and feed out in the open. But man, I get back to the hotel and my brain is still trying to answer all these questions that just flood my brain, like, which is a good thing. And I try to figure out the outcome and it's like till I fall asleep but that's just me. I don't think everyone's that way, but I think it's healthy to use your brain in that way where other parts of my life I don't get to think as much and problem solve as much as when I'm in a whitetail woods.
Yeah, and I think your thought process of always asking why and continually questioning that, I think is such a big point. One thing that I'd thought about a recent scenario where I ran into this is when I was in Ohio and I was muzzleloader hunting, and I'd went in and I saw those bucks sparring down in this bowl of some greenbrier, and I think I was texting you about it at that time, And I still hunted my whole way through there, wind swirling, and I didn't see any other deer. And I went back and I'm like, man, I said, I probably blew that whole area out with my wind swirling, and I went back and a couple hours had passed and I'm sitting on this point and I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, yeah, there's so much feeding here, but there's all these blowdowns coming from this thicket that's up on top down. There's not even trails coming out where I'm thinking they would normally come. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't even adding up.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, okay, originally my thought went to, I blew everything out in that bowl. But then I went back to thinking, I'm like, okay, from experience, deer are smelling danger a lot. And that doesn't mean that just because they smelled me go through there 2 hours ago, just kind of quick pass through, doesn't mean that now they're on edge for, the next 2 days. It's like, okay, they smelled the danger went away, things have kind of calmed down, it's cold, they want to eat, they're wore down from the rut. I was like, I need to go back to that spot. Went back there, and then that buck came out, and I shot him from the same. My wind had blown into that spot he had come out of multiple times earlier in the day. And I think it's really easy to get in your own head on like, okay, I might have screwed this up, or you don't see him when you think you're going to see a deer, and think about it that way, where from experience I've learned it takes a lot to really get them kicked out of a spot, especially if they like it.
Yeah, you're totally right there. And I think what you say with the wind just swirling, I even noticed a few times this year, wind for a second went the direction that I didn't want it to. And I sat there, and deer end up coming that way. As long as you don't have that constant wind, I feel like, say it's like a west wind that should be going this way, and then you get a little one going this way. I feel like more times than not, that wind might be, it might go 100 yards, it might shift like this and bounce off of something. So my North Dakota hunt, we had to wind going into the thick stuff all day, and just that light breeze right on the back of your neck. And I'm just like, oh, we're not going to see no deer there, but we're going to ride it out, That's where all the deer came from. And they were milling around right there, and I could just feel that wind going, and it worked out. So, yeah, a lot of times the wind will screw you, but if you try to stay scent-free to some degree, or be optimistic, and, yeah, it takes a lot. I don't know. It's weird. You don't actually know what's going to blow them out or where they're going to come from. But I think if you're in the right spot in time, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. And I talked about this and something I learned from you in the Ohio recap podcast, but on that same hunt, when I was in a different area, that when I was sitting in the tree and I was texting you and you're like, you got to get out of there. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, my brain and with my experience isn't in the late season other than the last 3 or 4 years, which really isn't that much experience in the grand scheme of things, where you have a ton more experience. And I'm going off of, I love historical data, and it's done really well for me during the rut. And, I'd found that camera you had that you thought was stolen that had that historical data. I was like, that buck is here. I know he's somewhere here, but I was like, the acorns that were here in end of October weren't
dried up.
They had dried up. And I was just so set on that in
historical data.
That historical data. And you saying that, like, just kind of clicked in my head. I was like, I got to go find where they're at right now. I got to find this. This is a different time of year than where I've got a lot more of my experience. Like, I need to push the envelope a little bit. I got to find where they're at right now. He's not here right now. And that's just, something that sometimes I struggle with in my own head of wrapping around, because I'm like, he's got to be here. Like, I've already planned this out in my head, how it's going to happen. And and that's something I learned, this year, and I've continually been learning it, especially from hunting with you in places when we've been doing the January muzzleloader hunts and everything else. But and the reason for saying that is just that's one of those things that compounding through experiences, and then also listening to other people and then being able to see it. Now, I went and did that, found a hotter sign, all the deer were there, and it was like had that success that now I can draw on in the future of like, okay, it helps you make decisions a little better.
Yeah, and historically that your data is really a big part of your hunt, but there's variables that come and go, and last year there wasn't a good acorn crop, and you had it this year in areas, so it can vacuum them deer right out of where they were last year historically and just like suck them out of there, especially when you had some weather come in. I think you had some snow. It's going to kind of make them feed. And
yeah,
when I had an idea of that other area, and I knew there was a good acorn crop, and you told me that, no one's been in there, and I said, there you go, man. I know there's oaks, and I said, I think there's where you're going to find your animals. Even like you said, it is hunting season. They have to feed. They have to survive. Even though they might smell something, boom, there's the food source, and you're almost pushed into a late season type hunt when you're in late November and December, and you have that snow. It could just kind of shift gears to where, man, we got to eat. So
yeah, and thinking about it, at that time of year, like there's so much more to it as far as like, okay, they've been pressured for months now at this time, and it's gun season, so there's more pressure in the woods. The leaves are off the trees, so their cover is limited more. Now their food is limited more because they've ate a lot of their, the mass crop and stuff. So, on paper, it should be easier once you find that spot to have an opportunity or figure out where the deer are versus early season where there's more cover everywhere, there's more food everywhere, where that starts to narrow it down a little bit. And starting to, these things when they started clicking in my head, and I was like, I just got to find that.
Yeah, you're right.
And for people that are listening that, haven't had those experiences or doing that yet, it takes the reps. I mean, you said it, you've been hunting for over 30 years of putting in effort to it. This isn't a short game to find success inconsistently.
Like you just said, you sat there in a spot, you were in the ballpark, but not in the right seat.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it, is you're asking yourself a ton of questions and drawing conclusions based off of your experience or your knowledge talking to people. And it isn't just your first day in the woods. This is over 20 years of you talking to your dad and other people, learning, and you're starting to yourself be the person that's asking them questions and of the animal and solving the problem and figuring them out. I think you're never going to, but I feel like I was thinking on the way up here, and I always talked about knowing as much as you can about that animal. I think you can know so much that you can predict things where they're going to want to be, almost like if you could tell the future, every time you got in the woods, like if you knew a deer was walking down this trail, you could just hide behind this tree and you knew what time he come, you could just shoot him. But I feel like the more you know about this animal and similar animals that you've hunted, mature whitetails, and draw your conclusions and figure them out and know about them, that it's almost like you can predict their movements when you hunt different states, different regions with hunting pressure and the same species, 5+ year old animal. You can get to not know the future, but you could pretty certain, and it kind of, like I said, that's the test. That's like the end result. You taking the test, harvesting the animal, that you didn't predict the future, but you know them well enough and study them enough that you're close to predicting their movements, and you can be ready for that. And like I said, you're just studying them. There's no one saying you're right or wrong, but you study them. But when I think, like you said, what keeps you going was when I harvest that animal, there's the test I passed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, 6 times, and it's like, okay, man, I got this. I think I I got this, but it's your knowing as much as you can, and then confidence comes into play. And your biggest tool is like the Spartan Forge app, like studying the maps and the predictions, and knowing. There's another thing, knowing the land that they live in, as good as, not better, but as good as they possibly, like just last week hunting, I could almost, if you asked me to, the square mile that I hunted, I could probably draw a picture of that, the top of the lines and elevations and everything, because I studied it to that point, and what trees are there in a square mile. Should, in my journal, I should write down how long I studied the map. Yeah. It's not just, everybody does it going through the woods. It's when you go back at night and you study, you check LiDAR, or you check this. So then you're kind of similar. You become them, and see how they want to move and stuff like that. So,
yeah, that the combination of the in the field, seeing the stuff, reviewing the maps. And I think what you just said there is one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions, or how people use mapping the wrong way, is they might e-scout prior to going somewhere, but they don't come back and take what they learned and look at those maps again and just continually coming back. I think that's sort of like the real gem with using Spartan Forge and using mapping tools, is to keep coming back to it and looking at and learning. I mean, there's areas I've hunted for 10 plus years. I'm still looking at maps constantly and finding little things that I didn't notice before, but this makes sense because I had them on camera here and I saw this trail here and it's like, okay, I got to check this little seam that goes in between here, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest tool, I think about it, is the Spartan Forge app with the, I'm not just talking up, but like if I ask myself questions, if I could eliminate everything, trail cameras, everything, and you had one thing to help you hunt, it would be the app. It would show me with the UAV LiDAR, and now, knowing deer from running trail cameras. And another thing I think about is now I can, people talk about running 100 trail cameras or whatever. I don't use cell cams. I think you can eliminate, you can shorten the learning curve. Once you know the animal, you don't need 100 trail cameras. Like the place I just hunted, I could probably get away with 10 trail cameras. So because I know the animal enough, I just need inventory or just a daylight, or just, that's all I really need to know he exists and he's there. Maybe using an area in daylight. That's all I need. So that's knowing the animal that well. You're eliminating all those trail cameras, checking them all, and putting all that time in. And that's where I said also, I'm not the best hunter because I know the animal so well that but I spent so much time knowing the animal that I don't use all the I'm not as good with my equipment stuff, and that's with the cameras too. Like I don't use the cameras. I don't need them anymore. To some degree I do, but like I didn't have a camera where we hunted here the last week. And then snow's another big thing, and we were probably in about maybe a square mile or less, and I saw enough that I know the area now. I know I could go in there with half a dozen to 8 cameras and be successful, but it just comes down and I mean, yeah, like I said, this started when I was 10 years old, being obsessed with like 35 years, when people were doing other stuff, and that, like, I went to the woods and just studied these animals, so yeah, just know your subject that you're pursuing.
Yeah, and I think, I didn't even need to really ask the question directly, because that's kind of what we've talked about, but about, what led you to this point and being able to, at this point, and maybe even more, but successfully, kill 5 bucks in 5 different states this year, which is an incredible feat. And, there'll be people out there that weren't able to shoot 1 buck and be like, why, how does that happen? And I think you answered that pretty clearly, as far as like the years and the time and the sacrifice that have went into all of this. And if you don't have that amount of time to be able to put towards it, maybe you gear in on that one state and that one place that you want to, that you can put in time to and learn it and really be a student to the animal that you were talking about there.
Yeah, and when I started, it wasn't that I was hunting 5 states at all. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was younger, I did Pennsylvania, I went to West Virginia. Okay, first couple years. Then I added a state. Another 5-6 years, added another state. And then you review them areas, like you said, you keep going back and checking them areas. Now 30 years, 15 states, and I know area, so it's not only those areas that I have, then I could relate or I could mimic what I see in this area, and when I go to the next spot, I want to find that. But I have experience, but to me, experience means that I've done enough wrong that I know what to do right now. I made a ton of mistakes, and I still make mistakes. But yeah, the sacrifice, just, if you're that passionate about something and you're that maybe obsessed, or I don't know what it is, just that's just what I've done all those years. I don't have an answer why.
Yeah.
Like, why are you so fast? If I'm fascinated by them and I want to learn, I just, everybody's different. But that's my fascination, and that's what my learning curve, and that's that, so. But yeah, a lot of experience doing things wrong, and then always asking yourself questions. That's the biggest thing, and then your experience can help draw your conclusions. And I could just keep saying the same thing in a circle, but that's what it is. But also being around people that are like-minded, that you could, get feedback from them, optimistic, kind of in working toward the same goal and their take, and like, go John, or go Beau, like everybody's in the same boat trying to
lift everyone up.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like I said, now that I am getting older, like being around the guys that are younger can see better. Like when I was tracking with Connor, he looks over 50 yards. Is there a track over there? I'm like, what? I can't even see that far, dude. Come on. Just let me,
Yeah.
That's a guy's track. He's going that way. He's like, oh, holy shit.
Let me get there.
I get over there and I'm like, I didn't say it right, but I'm like he's lives up there where he tracks a lot, and I can tell. And I'm pretty good, but I'm sure I don't do it as much as him, and I've followed deer for a long time. But yeah, it's good to be around people. Like even Pete, I remember hunting with Pete, and I'd always look at him, and I'm like, we're in a tree stand. I was like, Pete, you hear anything? He's like, I hear something over here. I said, does it sound like a squirrel or a deer? It's a deer. He's like, get ready. I'm like, because I can't hear as good anymore.
That's funny. So like you're gaining all these advantages with all these experiences and the knowledge and learning these bucks, but at the same time you're falling off on this side a little bit of like some of those senses that you had when you were younger, but you didn't have the experience and the skills on the other.
So I'm
front.
using other. Well,
yeah,
it's nice to be, or I like Kyle was with me this week, and he's passionate. He's sick with whitetails too, and it's good to be in the woods with some of that, especially if they're younger. So I got I got an extra set of eyes, ears, and got some of their knowledge. So we're going through the woods like this. Like, it's not just me and my senses. It's like, boom, we got two guys going. Like, I know a lot of people I pass, you go with a camera guy, man, that's an extra. You're gonna more smell, more sound, and this and that. That's just being pessimist, I think. Like, man, I got a set of eyes, I got a set of ears, I got someone else's knowledge to add to, like 5 + 5 is 10, so
yeah,
we got a better chance of killing an animal. Yeah,
that's a really good way of thinking about it. I think overall, just that mindset, when you were saying about being around positive people, and I think there's so much where your mindset controls the outcome on a lot of it, and it might sound cliche or just as a saying or a buzz term to be able to say that, but I truly believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about, you could ask, I saw a take from a Meat Eater podcast where Steve Ranella was talking to a guy, I think he was from Alabama, and that was like ate up, and he was talking about, is like, what's public land hunting been like? He's like, it's the best ever. Like, I'm in all this stuff. And he's like, it's funny how like you could talk to this guy that's like saying how things are the best they could ever be, and like really enjoying it, and like getting out there and finding success. And you could talk to his neighbor in the house next door, and he'll be like, deer hunting's gone to shit. It's gone. Everyone screwed it up. There's too many people. There's too many this. And I think there is a lot of that mindset. And I struggle to be around people that are negative. I don't like being in camp with them. I don't like spending a lot of time, because then it rubs off.
Your company is.
Yeah, it rubs off on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm like, even if you don't have that now, try to be somebody that people want to be around, so you can create that type of environment and get those types of friends and people to be around, because man, it helps a ton. Like, no matter what, even when I am going through a rough season, or I messed up or I did something, I've missed deer and talked to you, and you just like, hey, don't cry over spilled milk. You know how to do it. You know how to get yourself in a situation. Get out there and do it again. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, all right. Can I cry another couple minutes? You're like, all right, a couple minutes.
Yeah, I give I give myself that little bit of time to be hard on yourself, because you need that.
Yep.
You can't be, I know everything, I'm the best, I screwed up, I should have did this, da-da-da. You need that to get into your brain. But at the same point, after a certain time, you don't let it keep destroying you. You need to learn from it and hit the switch and get back to, okay, here we go. Because, I mean, even this year, there's things that happened. I could have shot a deer in this, another deer in here, or a bigger one in this situation. And I let it bother me to a certain degree, and then get back on your horse. Everybody falls off the horse. You get up, clean yourself off, take it out, straighten your clothes out, get on and keep riding, So, and like I said, with some of the hunts I had this year, how we talked about leading up the 30 years or whatever, in my experience, in my hunt up north, I said that deer is up there in hunting a few days. And it just came back to my experience. Guys were tracking, there's snow down, and when I got there, it was a fresh blanket of snow, like no one's been in the forest. You got this pristine forest. And then after a few days, I started seeing guys parked, guys going in the woods here, guys there, guys there, and it just brought me back to my senses and my feeling and my instincts. Is like, I got to get away. I can't be, this is not where I'm going to find the animal I want to hunt, And we had tracked this big deer earlier in the week, and, he went up high. And so what I did, I probed, and that's a lesson, that's a thing I talk about, is probing, just kind of like this to some degree. And okay, I know he's there, but I probed in the days after tracking him. He went up in a higher elevation, and I had a feeling like that deer's up there. There was nobody going up there, and I was able to harvest that deer up there, and his bed was like, there's 8 inches of snow, but it was bone dry leaves in it. But people knew about that deer, but my experience and seeing all the hunting pressure and go to where no one's at, and I like that part of it. There's a little bit of an extremist on how I feel like I am, like right on the edge of, like, never see a deer, or like, man, it's gonna happen, and it's up in them rugged areas where nobody goes, nobody wants to take the long road in, and I think a lot of people get so close, and they have good effort and good intentions in hunting, but it's that extra step they need to take that might be uncomfortable, or they don't want it bad enough, and that's where they're going to have success, but they don't go to that next level, and I feel like from years of experience, I've learned that. And so I was able to go where nobody wants, and this deer was in his safe zone, as I talked about, and he was in his bed, and he saw me, and he's going to, like, I felt like in his brain, it's like, I'm holding on to this spot, even though I see this idiot up here on a cliff where nobody goes. And he's like, I think he never expected to see one there, a human there. and this is his last resort. This is a safe area. This always worked for him. He said, I'm just going to ride this out, and I come around this cliff, and there I seen a brown, and I looked up with my rifle, and I just seen a big like field goal post. Basically, it was him in his bed, and he's just looking up at me. And if I went, before I got to the lane where I could see him at 120, like here it was thick, I could see him. And if I went another few feet, it was thick again where I wouldn't see him. And I end up getting to there, and I thought it was like a rock or a log. I'm some brown in the snow, and I'm going to take a look anyways. And there he was. And I think when you get a deer sometimes in that situation where this is a 10-year-old animal that probably, I call him the king of the mountain. I see that a lot, to where he fought to have this. I'm not giving this up even for some idiot up on a mountain. I'm holding my ground, but that's what got him killed. So that situation, and like with the Ohio deer early season, I never had a trail cam picture of this deer, but just knowing enough about animals and deer and similar situations, I said, there's a good deer here. I need to hunt here. And he showed, and that was great. It was like, I did have a couple cameras running there, but that doesn't, even though I didn't pick that animal up, my instincts kicked in from all my experience. I said, I have to hunt here. There's a good deer, whether he's here now or he's going to be here, he could show up. And I don't know what it was, but, yeah. And like I said, these are all tests that I'm taking. I feel like I'm in class and the teacher gives you the paper and here's your test, John. I'm like, geez, I hope I studied well enough. So I'm like, boom, she gives me an A. I'm like, oh man. And sometimes you're surprised. You're like, wow, I passed. Next test. Get an A+. Damn, I did all right. But to me, that's my way of from my teacher, like not a teacher, but harvesting that animal is, and that's all it is. I'm not doing it to be like, prove something that I think I'm proving something to myself and to my teacher, which is the animal, that, okay, what I've studied over the years, my drawing conclusions and problem solving is right. Because there's nobody on the outside while I'm studying this animal telling me, you're doing this right. Yeah, you're on the right track. I don't know that I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Then when I take the test and I harvest that animal, and that's all it is to me, is to tell myself, you're on track, John. You're doing things. You're right in what you're doing and what you've learned over the years. It's like, whew. Because there's times when you don't, have a good year, and you're like, you're just like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And there's times I say, I don't know shit. I have no idea. And there's even times I come to you, it's like, I don't know where to go. I ain't got nothing on camera all summer. I'm like, it sucks. Like, even this year, he's like, Beau's like, you'll be all right. You'll shoot some deer. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I'm up at night. I was like, I don't even know. Like, you could ask me where to go hunting. I was like, I don't know. Like, so I want to answer, like, I don't have to know, dude. This is terrible. 30 years I've been up here hunting, like even up here 20 years. I didn't even know where to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but this year is hilarious because between you and Mason, I was like, two of the best hunters I know are coming to me and be like, I have no idea what to do. I don't have a buck worth hunting on camera. I'm not sure exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you guys figure it out.
And it's just being persistent and never give up. Never, hard work ethic, getting up early. But there's times you take a day off here and there. You need a rest period. But yeah, that's why I do it, to prove to me that I'm on the right track. What I've learned over the years is correct. It's not like I'm trying to, and that's me. Like, in the way I hunt is not how everybody hunts. I don't expect everybody, like, to each their own, but this is me and this is how I hunt.
I want you to hold this up here for, make sure these cameras are still running.
Good, Beau?
Okay, yeah, we're good.
So this is the one I just talked about up on King of the Mountain here.
Yeah, the Northeast Mountain. That And I think probably the way, holding on camera here with the skull off of it, you can really see how big that deer is. But like your original photos you sent, and I knew it was big depending on what you had told me. But that deer is one of the biggest mainframe 8-points I've probably ever seen. Impressive from the mass, the beams, just the skull on him. I mean, that jawbone. You were just showing me outside. You've got the jawbone from multiple or 3 of the deer out there, and you've got multiple deer over 5 years old, and his jawbone was an inch taller than the other ones.
Yeah, his head, he got a donkey head on him, but I think they do. And the skull plate here is just ridiculous how thick that thing is here. A lot of these deer are 5 years old that don't have this structure here, with his bone and his big head. That's the species maybe in that area that Connor told me that I went up to his house and I said, hey, your taxidermist is using the wrong form, let me tell you. The heads are too big. You're trying to put this big head on them, It's not in proportion. Let me tell you, I shot a lot of deer. Yeah. He's like, no, I use the best taxidermy in New England. So, well, he don't know shit. No, I didn't say that. I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, hey, they get these big donkey heads after they get 5 years old. So, it looks out of proportion with the body and that, but the mounts are well done. And that's just, I'm used to looking at deer that we shoot in this area, Ohio, But, yeah, it's legit when I got, and I think a lot of the pictures don't do it justice because the head is bigger.
Yeah.
The rack don't look as
the head and the
impressive.
body. I mean, everything on that deer is so big that, and it's just and some deer picture better than others, just the way they're framed and everything. This is just a gnarly, 10, 9, 10, maybe plus year old 8-point.
Yes, he was the king of the mountain. He had scars to prove it. He had a hole in his not in his skull, but in his head up here that was filled with pus, probably the size of a quarter, and one in his jugular, the size of a nickel. He was bruised, and his muscles along his esophagus, and pus and scars on his neck, and a hole in his face. Like really ripped ears and just like a badass. Like
he's seen a few things.
And one thing I'll show you, Beau, a 10-year-old deer with the width of the chest, and this deer was probably in October, probably around a 250-pound range on a hoof. He lost a lot of weight. He dressed out at 176 pounds when I shot him December. Lost some weight. But the one thing I notice is and I've seen it before on some deer, their leg going down to their toes is really thick. It's robust. It's like, wow, look at that. But also when he hung upside down and his front legs were like this, pretty much it's a straight line from the shoulder blade down to the knee to the toes. And I've never seen it before. Yes, he was a lot thicker in through here. But from what I would call maybe the knee joint down to the toes, he was out of alignment about an inch. His legs, when I got him out here, I'll show you him. His legs are like this. And that's the duck foot walk they talk about. But I think over years, as he's heavier and a wider chest, just nature takes over and gravity to where he just it's a better stance or better for holding himself up. Stability to where, when he's younger, them tracks are in about this distance, to where I feel like once the weight and gravity takes over and his chest grows and I say, look at them legs on that thing. They're about from the knee down to about an inch out of alignment. Was pretty wild. Like I've never seen that.
So like seeing his track when he'd walk, his width between the tracks was wider than a 2 or 3 year old deer.
Yeah, definitely. And we got a lot of good footage. It's going to be a good video.
You self-filmed that, actually.
The kill, yes. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
We had filmed tracking him 3 days previous, we did 12 miles, and caught him about 2 o'clock. We caught his track and followed him about a mile up into where I had a hunch that he was living, and then I probed around down low, and it's not just like that. I mean, it's like a lot of elevation and a lot of land, like a lot of area that I hiked to find. He didn't come back down, and my hunch was kind of correct. So we have some good foot, and he had the sheds to this deer, so he knew existed.
Yeah.
And
he had trail camera video too.
Trail cam pictures I just posted like of this deer this year that we actually pulled to one camera. He hasn't been there for a long time. But I was like, he's right there. Like I said, he's up there.
What did it look like? Like, why did you think that was his safe zone? Like, that's where that king of the mountain wanted to be.
Yeah, higher up elevation, rugged. Nobody goes there. Like,
simple as that.
That's it. Not where anybody wants to be. And I think a lot of these deer have that. A lot of deer that get to this level have those areas where nobody wants to go. So we got some good footage of me tracking them, and I actually missed a good buck on film.
Oh, yeah. Tracking. Was that 2 days before that?
I think 3 days, the first day I was there.
Okay, yeah.
And we were kind of high-fiving. Got him. 80-yard shot. I had to switch left-handed to right-handed to shoot.
First of all, me and Mason were talking about this when you weren't around. I think you had told him the story, and you told me the story. And Mason looks at me and goes, have you ever heard of anybody switching hands to shoot? I was like, that's like the third time I've seen Johnny do that. Yeah. And I said, I've never heard of anybody being able to do that, which is very impressive, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. But I was kind of like left-handed, and he was standing there looking, and I switched right and had to get like twisted down. And he's like, we just jumped him earlier, and so he's watching his back trail in my head, but I couldn't see his head. He was actually looking down the hill at another deer. He didn't even know, and it was pretty quiet. And I'm trying to get to where I could see him. His head's behind a tree and his shoulder, and I switched to right-handed, and it was only 80 yards, and I kneeled, and I said, are you on him, Connor? He's like, I could see his whole body. I can't see his head, and we're assuming this could be done in a second if he sees us moving and he's gone. Meanwhile, he was looking down the hill at another deer.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't even know that we were there, but we didn't know that because we couldn't see his head. So I said, if he takes 10 feet, I'm going to light him up. And Connor's like, if he goes 10 feet, you ain't going to get no footage. I'm like, well, I'm going to put it on that last rib. I could be tight. There was a tree. I said, I can get tight to that tree. If I don't hit that tree, that 308's going to blow up in him, And I shot, and that deer took off, tail all funny. He's like, yeah. You hit him. You see how he run? I'm like, yeah, I smoked that sucker, boy. Got the first day out, tracked a big old buck, smoked his ass, man. It's going to be good. We get back, drink a beer. We got easy drag. Well, we're celebrating. Yeah, no. I never touched that deer. So then we tracked him probably 3/4 of a mile. We caught up to him again, but he saw us coming. He ran. And then this one, when I come around that mountain, I seen him laying there. I was able to shoot left-handed. I clicked the GoPro on. It was over my shoulder here. Once I saw it was a deer laying down there at 120, I thought it was a log. I was able to click the GoPro on, and I had to go 10 feet to a spruce tree. And in my mind, I'm saying, John, hurry up, but take your time. Like, that's what was going through my head. Like, that's all was going through my head. And I clicked that GoPro on, and it had... As I turn, it was over this shoulder. So it has me, a trigger finger, gun, everything. And I get up high on a spruce tree where there's a Y, and I'm kind of like trying to use that Y as a rest, but I couldn't get my back this up high enough to shoot down to where he was. So I come off of that spruce Y, and I got just kneeling. And same thing, hurry up and take your time. Because, if you had all the time in the world, you could breathe out, really just, get it tight in here and just squeeze that sucker. But at the same time, he could be running over the hill any second. So I could just see his head and that brown, like,
was he laying there still, or was he standing?
Yeah, no, he just hunkered down in that bed and just watched. And I just right below his head and face. I just seen his head was in a center of brown mass, his body, and I kind of come down below his chin, and I figured right here, right?
Yep.
So I touched one off, and you can even see in the video that I knew I wasn't going to, it wasn't like he was going to, there was one lane that I could see him. It wasn't like I'm going to get, if he takes off, and a cliff right there, I'm like, I'm getting one shot. So I actually dropped the gun like this, and then I'm like, it wasn't like, boom. It was kind of like, I said, I'm going to have one shot at this deer. That probably wasn't a great thinking. I should have, boom. Because he ended up running up the hill, and I almost could have had another bullet in him. Because he run 20 yards up the hill, so there's something I learned, and I write in a journal all the time, what should I do next? Every time I go on a hunt, rack a shell in there. Even though you think you're only getting one shot, you might stand up and look around.
Yep.
And you might pop another one there. So I eventually got the next one in. You can see on a film. It was a couple seconds later, and I almost took a shot because he ran up the hill and over the hill. So after the previous miss, which we were high-fiving a few days earlier, I'm like, I'm not as optimistic with this shot. Especially, it was a little further, but shooting through some stuff. It was like two trees at 60, 80 yards that were he was just his body was sandwiched in between them trees. Barely, I could barely see his whole body. And there's some little bit of shit in there. It wasn't just daylight between him and I. So I just sat for 20 minutes. And I think you had called me. You're like, man, I found my deer. I'm standing over this buck here. And da-da-da. It's like, awesome, Beau. That's good for you. I was like, dude,
No. This is how it went. I'd found my deer, and I called you, and you were whispering. You're like, I'm on the mountain. I think I'm in the area where this king is. You hadn't found him at that point to even get a shot. But you told me with absolute confidence that you felt like you were in the area of that deer. It was very, because by the time I had found him, and I had his back end skinned as I was quartering him up. You called me and said, dude, I just shot him. And I'm like, what do you think? You're like, I don't know. You're like, I don't know yet. Everything felt good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got to get down there and look. And then you called me again when you were down at the bed.
Yeah.
And so you can tell a story from there.
Yeah, I remember telling you, hold on, I'm going to go down, wait 20 minutes. I was afraid to go down.
Yeah.
Because I almost didn't even want to know the outcome. Because this was awesome. My heart's still beating. This was an awesome hunt. Right now, if I die right now, I'd be happy. Yeah. Basically, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want to go down there and not find them. And it was a calm day. I was debating even whether to go home that morning. And I talked to Connor. I said, I need to go where nobody's at. I feel like claustrophobic. I feel like I'm there's too many guys. I got to get away from people, and he sent me one spot, another spot. And because I've never really hunted a lot of the area, and guys going in the woods here, and I said, and it just John, you got to go back after that one. I almost drove home. Because the odds weren't in my favor, these deer are getting hunted, and it's dead calm, not crunchy enough, and visibility's you can't see too far. But that's what I talk about, never giving up. I said, I'm at least going to go up there to where I think he's at and do a loop around. And it was an hour and a half hike up there. I said, maybe I'll be done at noon, and because if you do jump when you get on a track, that'd be good. But if I don't find nothing, then it's getting late in the day. I'm just going to abandon ship. So, end up getting down to the bed, and I'm at 40 yards, and I pull my binoculars up. I'm like, that looks like a clump of hair in the white snow. But as soon as he jumped up and ran, I looked at his bed. Brown, dry leaves with 8 inches of snow. Like he lived in that. That was his safe. That's what he held on to. He didn't want to give up. He didn't want to give up that spot. I think when I reflect on the hunt, he didn't want to give it up. That's where he survived. To where if I jump him and I chase him, then I'm on to his, I always talk about his safe zone. safe area, safe spot, and his life would be, chances of him living would be tougher, because that's where he learned to survive, is there, and hold on to that. So I did see the brown hair, and I said, maybe it's just some dirty snow or something, like,
Yeah.
because I'm not like, yeah, that's hair, yeah. And so I got it to about 30 yards, and I said, yeah, I'm 90% sure that's a clump of hair. And I get down to the bed, and I'm standing in it, and I see his tracks going that way to where he was actually like maybe dragging a leg. I'm like, oh, I broke his leg. I'm not optimistic on it, but his legs are under him when I'm shooting at him, so I have to get through something
to hit the leg,
right? But I'm thinking more, a little bit realistic, maybe a little bit pessimistic, just to not pat myself on the back just yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with what happened the other day. So I did see one drop of blood in the snow right by his bed. And I'm like, that's good. That's good. And so I started on his tracks up the hill. It was like a hillside, so his tracks I just stayed maybe 10, 15 foot just to get some elevation, because I know he went up here and over the hill, just to give me a couple 5 feet elevation in case I see him standing or laying down there. I didn't stay like on his tracks because I wouldn't see down the cliff as good. So I just stayed up and just kind of paralleled his tracks. And I got to about 25 yards out of his bed, and I seen the spray, which I assumed was out of his nostril, mouth. And I'm just like, I think he's going to die, or he's going to maybe need a follow-up shot, but he's not. We're going to get this deer. As soon as I crested where I last saw him, after I shot, and where I see him turn and go down a hill, like I crested right there. I saw that blood, and I crested, and I looked down. I'm like, holy shit, there he is, right? Like, I didn't expect it to happen that fast.
Yeah.
30 yards down the hill, he's laying there dead as a doornail. Big old horse body, big old rack. I'm like, no way. I can't believe it, dude.
Yeah.
Jeez. So that was pretty awesome, man.
Now, I obviously wasn't there with you, but I was riding a high of finding a deer that I didn't know if I was going to find. I'm sitting there, I'm skinning them, I'm grinning the whole time as I'm doing that. In my head, you just called me that you just shot this mammoth of a deer, and then I see your phone light up, and dude, I've got blood all in my hands and just like fat tissue all over my fingers and stuff, and it's cold, and I'm just like, I had my phone sitting on the hide of the deer where I was skinning, so I could answer. I answered. I was like, you're like, yeah, I got him. And there was a lot of words that I won't repeat that were on there, but you were so pumped up, and I was like, dude, how cool is this? You and I are, 15 hours apart right now, or maybe less, but whatever it is, we're a long ways apart, and we're both standing over
trophies.
Big deer that we've worked
in
really
hard
in the snow that we worked really hard for, and it was just like, man, this is awesome. Like these now it would have been really cool if we were both there with each other during that time, but like that was cool that we were able to do that. Like that was
that's like smiling on both ends of the phone.
Yeah.
Like, life's good. Yeah, it would have been too bad we weren't. I mean, we shouldn't have been. If we were, we'd been hammered.
Yeah.
I drank one beer that night. I was because it took me 6 hours.
And I screwed you on that because you asked me to borrow a frame pack, and I told you I had one for you to use, and I didn't get it to you.
I know. Always let me down. Hey, I don't know.
Out. But you're not allowed to. I don't think you're allowed.
I think you have to bring the carcass out too.
Yes, you're right. I did. So Connor told me that you had to.
Not that I couldn't got it the next day.
In that state, you had to. Yeah, I don't know as far as exactly how it works, which that sucks, by the way, for having to do that. But I get also all those guys, the weight is just as important as the antlers is for their measurement style. But, yeah.
So I had the GoPro running or the DJI, and there was a lot of F-bombs because it was almost like I was in my own world by myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a cameraman to be like, man, that like, keep it clean.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I looked at it, I was like, oh man, John, come on. But there was nobody on the mountain to hear me but the DJI.
But you two will.
Yeah. And then I called you, and there was some bad language, and then Connor, and everybody was just like, F this. I'm like, geez, let's clean it up a little bit, boys, But that's how that went. And the one thing, because not for everybody else, but for my sake, that was an epic, probably my best rifle hunt ever. Mountain, snow, big woods, old deer, king of the mountain, heavy deer, like everything was great about it. I didn't set the GoPro down and sit with the deer and show them off and talk to the GoPro. And I don't have much footage of me with the deer sitting there. Look at this. And that's something I wish I did, because I could look back and watch it myself, not even for anybody else, but for my sake, So I did sit there for about an hour at least. It was a part of me just wanted to be up there in his mountain with him.
Yeah.
And respect and stuff like that. And I think the other part was dreading the drag out. So it kind of kept me
delaying
up
the inevitable.
Yeah, and so at one point I looked at my phone, it was 20%. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm not going. Connor's like, I was able to talk. I had cell service. You might have to go back up. And I'm like, F you. This deer's not going up any hill, mofo. You know what I mean? But I had gone down, and I had 30 foot of parachute cord with me. And I was up in the cliffs to where I tied a cord around his antlers. And what I have is a broomstick handle that I have for my DJI. It comes up out of my pack, and I used that. It worked out pretty good. I used that, wrapped a rope, twisted that broomstick handle, and had it short to his horns.
I'm surprised that thing didn't break.
And it worked good. I mean, there was enough friction and some stuff, and then cliffs. I would wrap it around a tree, and I would just ease it like a reel.
Yep.
And I would just listen and let him down in cliffs. And then I had to go. The one thing, though, the app doesn't have enough detail there. They have the tight lines for topo, 10-foot increments. But there's some legit cliffs that.
Oh, you mean
on
the LiDAR
Forge,
in that area?
Yeah, it's not the LiDAR or even just the. It just looks like steep lines.
Yep.
But there's some they're not. They should be touching. You know what I mean? Because I got down out of those cliffs, so I was down the hill, 250 foot elevation, and I said I need to go along this topo line, damn near level, and then I have to go up 40 foot elevation to a little finger ridge, and then it's all downhill. And so I remember taking my phone, I'd shut it off because battery was dying, and I would pull it out of my pocket. So at the bottom of dropping them down in elevation, I had to go across. I pulled my phone out, and I was like, okay, I need to go 480 yards by the crow to where I got to kind of start up. God, fuck, that ain't 480 yards. You know what I mean? But it was rugged. And there was dips in that mountain that you didn't even see. The topo lines weren't even there. So I was trying to stay above, and I get to rock cliff. I'm I can't even get across there. And I remember gaining some elevation, trying to gain some elevation as I go. And I got to a point where it was a rock cliff, and I had to go lose elevation, go down into this dip, then back up, and then across, So I went an hour or so, and I'm like, damn, John, you're making some headway, boy. I tell you what. So I pulled the phone out. I went 150 yards. I wanted to cry. I was like, well, it's going to be a long night. Then I was out of water. But I'm smart, all right? I took my water bottle, packed it full of snow, put it down on my pack where my back's warm. I'm sweating,
Yep.
So 3 hours later, I get back to the car. My water bottle's full of snow. You know what I mean? It's not even water.
It's not. It's still snow.
Yeah. And I'm carrying around extra snow.
You just shoved it down your pants.
Yeah. I found one little piece of cheese in my pack. I'm like a mouse. I'm there eating this piece of cheese. So I get back, take all the extra bottle full of snow out of my pack, cleaning out all the garbage I'm in my pack. I found 4 Hershey bars in my pack that I didn't even know I had.
Oh.
I was like, them would have been good about 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
So I get to that little point, and it was all downhill. I pulled my phone out one last time, so I started dragging it too.
Was it probably like 4%?
1%.
Okay.
And I'm like, please, God, please, Lord, baby Jesus, help me with this phone call, So started at 2. It's about 6 o'clock, and maybe 6:30. And I call Connor. I was like, hey, you know where I'm at? I'm up here. At one point, da-da-da. Yeah, let me get my map. I was like, no, you need to say, yes, I know where you're at, because my phone's going to die, and I might die up here, So he's like, yeah, I kind of know where you're at. He said, if you keep going downhill, you'll hit it, da-da-da. So I get downhill, and I'm on my way out, and meanwhile, phone's dead now, and I just got a headlamp that's dying, and I could see 20 feet. And I just kind of like went with it, and I got down into a creek bottom, a swamp, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. Like, I'm following the creek, and I'm pretty sure the creek goes to the road, So I dropped the deer.
Did you go downstream or upstream?
Down. I was heading out.
Yeah.
I come out in some guy's backyard by his garage, and I was kind of like worried,
Yeah.
But I was totally lost. Like, and I get to so I drove up there with Connor in his truck, and I had a rental up there that I had to get the next day at 9 a.m., an SUV from Enterprise, and I was going to drive it back here. But the next day, we get up at 5 a.m. He's like, we're going to get your rental. I'm like, no, man, we got to hunt. Don't worry about the rental. I can't, but this is how I live my life when it comes to whitetails. I'll worry about getting home when the time comes. So 3 days go by. On the third day, well, he told me he's gonna hang out with me for a couple of days and film, and he got me missing that deer, and he got me tracking that big one. He said on the third day, I'm going to go to Massachusetts, and he was driving 2-3 hours to go hunt. And so we were using his vehicle. I didn't even get my rental yet because I'm so he's like, hey, so the 2 days previous or whatever, he's like, what about your rental? I'm like, I don't know, because it would open at 9 and close at 3. I'm like, dude, that's right in the middle of hunting season, like hunting daytime hunting. I'm like, in a couple of days we wanted to leave early, like when we were tracking this deer. We got to go. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. We got to get your rental. I'm like, no, I'll worry about getting home when that time comes, But that's always my attitude. So then, the one day he went to Massachusetts, so I'm sitting in his house, no vehicle. I said, well, I'm just going to go out back and hunt. So I hiked just through some jungle for about half a mile. Then I got to some woods where I was able to hunt. Then finally I said, he didn't go the next day. Or I don't know what happened, but he had shit to do. So he drove me into the rental place. Meanwhile, they gave my SUV away. And he's like, hey, we're going to upgrade you. I was like, oh, yeah?
They
a truck or something.
always say that.
I got a van, a 2-wheel drive van. 3 rows of seat back here, boy. But I was like,
nobody to put back there.
I'm like, he said it got all season tires on it. I'm like, all right. So I had to be careful where I was going hunting.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Dude, I wish I could see you in that van.
It was a Chrysler. It's a big, long thing, boys. But if I knew where I was when I got down to the swamp, like if I got the deer to the road, that fucking deer was going in the van. I was going to feel like put all them seats down and just drag it up in that rental. You know what I mean? He was going in, but I was down in the swamp, got through this dude's backyard and garage and shed, and 8 o'clock at night, 15 degrees, get to my van, plug my phone in, and I called Connor, and he was about 40 minutes out. He said, oh, you're on that guy's property that I know, because that's the way he kind of told me to go. There's a piece of private, but the guy allowed him to cross through it and hunt it, and he said, no, you're on my buddy's, or, everything's good. I said, I'm in a swamp somewhere. He said, oh, I know exactly where. It's cool. You're about, I said, I'm 400 yards from the road. He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, thank the good Lord, so.
Dude, I didn't know this part of the story because we hadn't talked about that ending of it. I do have some action items for you once you finish the story, but could keep going.
So he got there and we parked, and I got some film of him walking up to it. He knew of the deer, and he was pretty blown away. So I think we skinned it. We got back, had dinner, and one beer, and I was like, I said, I don't even think I had one. I said, I need water. Like, I don't need alcohol right now. So we passed out and skinned them the next day, and that was that. No, and he said, I said, what do you think he weighs? 200 is the big thing.
Yeah.
200, like, he's 200 all day, bro. I know. That thing weighs a ton.
Yeah, that deer might be 500.
Yeah, so I said, and so he's like, I think he's about 180. I said, maybe 480. I said. So we take him to the check-in station. And the lady's like, Connor's like, yeah, maybe 180. He's like, but I don't know. I'm like, if you don't know, I sure as hell don't know. And he was 176, dressed out. But I'm like, thank God he wasn't 200.
Oh, yeah, you'd have been dead up there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it out alive. That would have been another 25 pounds. Well, if I got rid of some of that snow and shit, ate them candy bars, I'd lighten my load a little bit, too.
But you didn't. Oh, sorry. So I got some action items for you, some things to write in your journal for to remember next year. You need to get yourself a battery bank with a plug for your phone. Yeah. I keep one all the time because it charges my phone, especially cold weather, sucks down the battery there. Mm-hmm. Also, to get a headlamp that can be rechargeable. Yeah. So you can use that same cord to do it. I can use the same cord for my headlamp or my phone. I know people don't like rechargeable headlamps because you can't just replace batteries, but I always have a battery bank. So, and that battery bank will charge my phone 4 times. Oh, good. And in that headlamp I have a Peaks headlamp, which everyone comments on because how bright the red light is. It's like a freaking spotlight that's red, but it charges really good. So you need that. You need some food. You need to carry some snacks with you. Eat.
I usually do, but it was like, I'm just going to go up there and do a loop through one bottle of water and a piece of cheese. Like, I'm not going to be here all, yeah. But that's usually when it happens, when you're not prepared.
So there is that part of it of understanding to be suffer, because whenever you aren't prepared is when things happen that are like when you need those things. It just always works that way. And then if not, as far as the water situation, you just had like a regular 16-ounce Aquafina bottle. Like, is that what you had with you?
What I had was a shaker bottle because it fit on my side of my pack, and it took up a lot of space to hold my my hand for my GoPro. So that's what I had. It filled with water, but.
Well, so if you're going to do a long hunt like that, you're hiking 10, 12 miles, potentially packing out a big deer in steep country, I got to have an extra one, Sawyer Squeeze thing. It's like this small, but it has an empty bladder that rolls up and a filter on it. So you just fill it up in any stream, and it filters all the toxins and stuff out of it. So you can refill your bottle so that you're good. Yeah. But those are some pretty safety conscious things.
Before I went up there, I was gonna, but I don't. Things during hunting season go out the door. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get some type of little survival kit. I did have a lighter and a couple things like that, but I'm like a compass. I want to have all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I had none of it because I'm like, it was like Connor come down and he shot a deer and it was crunchy, crusty. He's like, we're getting snow, so let's go. It was gone. I'll worry about that survival. I'm worried about a compass another day. The next trip, when I'll prepare. I don't have time to prepare. I just gotta go. Like I said, it's like go. We gotta get your rental vehicle. Don't worry about that rental car. I'm not worried. We gotta hunt.
Yeah,
I gotta hunt.
Oh my gosh, it cracks me up. And in the same breath, that makes a better story because of those things. But you think about it, say with Spartan Forge on your phone, especially in a new area, you rely so much on that versus like in the past, if you went to a new area, at least the way that I learned from my dad growing up. Now, I was lucky by the time I grew up, we had at least GPSs. Yeah. And I had one of those, they called them a backtracker. Didn't really show the maps, but you could find like your way back. Like you said it when you left your vehicle, like it just point an arrow, in the direction.
Like a compass.
Yeah, pretty much like a compass. Then GPSs and then the phones and stuff. But when you rely so much on that thing that's technology specifically, that goes away. It's like, what? Like, what do I do? How do I get out? I think about that a lot because my brother was actually, so I pride myself in feeling like I'm pretty prepared for a lot of situations, but I haven't carried a compass. My phone has been, I'm like, I got a battery.
Yeah, you're
bank.
right. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, what if I drop my phone in the water or something, or dropped it on a rock, and broke it. And so I do need it. That's something I have. I need to get a compass to be able to add to it and even, just refresh on using that as far as for navigation. Like I used to use it when I was younger in Boy Scouts and learned how to use it. But I mean, yeah, it's been a minute. We're gonna have to wrap this one up here, Johnny. I know we got a lot of deer here and more stories for other times, but it's Christmas Eve and we got a Christmas party to go to. But I did want you to hold up. So here's your Ohio deer that you talked about for anyone that's watching it. Which is just awesome buck. And you've also got your North Dakota deer here, which that thing is an absolute tank as well. What has he got? 14 scoreable points, something like that?
Yeah, he's a 14.
Dang. Remember the days when that's what you based obviously it's a big deer, but that's what you base it off of. Like out of all of these, that would be the biggest.
Yeah, you're right. Cause I know the one deer on that wall, you could see it over there. Beau was my first buck on the front wall.
Yeah.
And Beau was like, dude, that's a 10 point. You're getting a mount. I'm like, yeah. So he's like a 2-year-old 10 like this, scored 100 some inches.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's a 10. You got a 10. It's like, dude, I got a 10.
Yeah.
10 point. Well, I thought it'd never happen. So I got him. I mean, it was my first buck too, but yeah, you're right. 14. But yeah, I think that one.
Yeah.
8.
And then, you've got over there, you got your West Virginia one there, which is a beautiful deer.
Yeah, that was a
these
fun
ones
hunt.
Overshadow them a little bit, but on any year, that's, an absolute awesome
good
buck.
Deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An awesome buck. And then your Pennsylvania deer, too. Is he here? I haven't seen him
No, I got to
yet.
run up to the butcher shop and get him today.
Okay, nice.
So.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's an absolutely incredible season and something that was definitely well earned. That you put the time in, and not just this year, but just the last 30 years of learning to get to that point.
Exactly.
And I don't think everyone always understands the amount of time and sacrifice it takes to do that, and I do, and it's like that's a pretty dang incredible feat of a season to be able to have that much success, and to be able to now you have all those other experiences and tests that you passed that help you next year.
You're right, and it's like, and I challenge it's a challenge, and I go to harder places and more, just because that's what I want as a challenge. As I get better, I want my tests to be harder.
Yeah.
I don't, so I keep gravitating toward the challenging, the harder test. I mean, they were all in areas that are public land that are challenging areas to hunt.
Yeah.
So
the videos that are out on YouTube right now, you've got your Ohio one, your North Dakota.
Yeah. West Virginia one is out.
The West Virginia one's out.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
Yeah, that one's out. And we're working on this one here, and it's going to be maybe a 2-part video.
Yeah.
With the tracking. I know I see a lot of tracking videos that are, I think there's a lot of information in tracking, and
Yeah.
I actually had a cameraman to film this deer, and I vividly remember seeing his track and be like, hey, I put my foot there. I was like, video this for everybody at home, because I'm like, I don't see this shit.
Yeah.
So we had. I think I'm going to start off in PA here.
Yep.
And even over your place, we did some film the night before buck season in PA.
Yep.
Couple days, Connor harvesting his deer, going to up north for that deer, and with the tracking and that, we're going to try to make that a two-part video. I think he said when he's been working on it now. And then my recent trip to West Virginia, same thing, some tracking and late season muzzleloader and
your PA one too, is that going to be?
Oh yeah, the PA, and he had some good video, and we're gonna, so it'll be this one, then PA.
When do you think those will be out?
I'd say a good week for this one.
Okay, so
and then I'm thinking maybe early January the PA one, and then and then the West Virginia one I missed. That was a little bit of shit show.
Yeah, I can't wait.
My powder was like mud in my barrel. And these 2 monster bucks are there.
Well, you said that I screwed you. And,
I'm blaming Beau.
And
I
saw on his
make myself feel
better.
on
his Instagram story that Johnny set his gun down in the snow and next to a bed to show how big it was.
Oh yeah. The
and
day
I was
before.
like, he doesn't have tape on that. And when I told my dad the story last night, and he goes, "Yeah, I noticed that too." I was like,
my bros are like, I'm just a phone call away.
I was like, well, Johnny,
he called me the night
for me. Like, I was like, Johnny is muzzleloader hunting more than me. Like he must know what he's doing.
He must know something I don't know. That water is a little bit of that special snow down there in West Virginia. Got a little bit of accelerant in it. You get that in your barrel, it takes right off.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you called me that night when I had that mishap. He's like, I meant to call you, tell you. I meant to, but I got busy. I just meant to call you. I was like, you MFer. We could have been drinking beer right now, celebrating a big old buck, but you got busy. And you and your dad are like, yeah, what's wrong with him? Like, letting me go 10 miles a day down there in them mountains I was hiking with mud in my barrel. And they're just like,
you were just walking around with
mud.
Like there was no chance. Yeah, you had mud.
I had mud in my barrel and mud in there. And Beau's like, yeah, I should have meant to call you to let you know.
I'm sorry. Well, at the time this comes out here, this will be the beginning of January. So some of these videos are probably going to be out. So make sure you go check it out. Subscribe to Johnny Stewart on YouTube. Check it out. Dude, you've done a great job with YouTube, I gotta say.
Thanks, Beau.
It's I enjoy watching the videos, and they're always action packed. You got a mixture of really good information, good hunting, and comedy all thrown into it. And the bloopers video is probably my favorite. I gotta say, I was dying watching.
Pete did good
that.
on it, yeah.
Yeah,
but it is. Like people say, you are who you are, whether it's on camera or off camera. I like that. I'm not.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah,
you couldn't fake it if you wanted to. First of all, but like you're who you are, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's authentic.
And I think that's why one of the big reasons why it's doing so well. Your channel is growing. People are seeing it. It's like they can relate to you. It's awesome. So make sure everybody go check that out. Instagram at the Johnny Stewart. Check it out, and we'll obviously, as you know, Johnny's been on here probably 20 times now.
Yeah.
So we'll do more. We'll recap some more stuff, but I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, anytime, bro. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.